if Elon took X public in the next 6 months, this thing will rip and it will have absolute backers.
Yeah.
And like, maybe, honestly, now that you mentioned, that might be the play now, right?
Yeah, that's not,
It's
that's
like,
a good
Kathy
point.
Wood coming in.
yeah,
Yeah,
Kathy
yeah,
Wood.
yeah,
So like,
yeah.
listen, you can be cynical about that, but I'm saying like,
No, I'm serious about it. I'm deadly serious.
he's the greatest raiser of capital in the history of mankind. No one has raised more capital than Elon Musk. X.com or X, this everything app, can go out and raise infinite capital.
Yeah,
Dude,
exactly.
that's the move. Okay, Dale, you walked me into it. I was like lukewarm on the change. It wasn't like, I was like, fine. I wasn't like losing my mind over it. But now it's just like, it's so obvious what's going to
That's
happen.
how much value can you create?
Yeah.
As much as you like.
All right, welcome to another episode of No Investment Advice. We've got the NAI gang here together. Jack Butcher, Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi. Jack, you got a new spot. Where you at, mate? People are going to understand where you're at nowadays because you're going to be showing that background again.
Well, let's not swat our boy. Let's not dox our boy.
Oh,
okay?
wait, yeah, that's fair. You see the feds just coming
Yeah,
through.
guys, no. It's just, Jack's got a nice setup is all you need. Not
New location.
Yeah,
Got a new fridge. You got a new fridge in there,
Mhm.
ready
I'm
to
stocked.
go.
I'm stocked, boys.
You might pop open a 6-pack.
Mhm.
All right, well, boys, we got a lot to chat
Hold on
about.
a second, but I
Go
want
on,
to
go on,
speak one
go
thing
on.
into existence. I know in the past we've talked about Theo Von living near Jack. It's happening. We're hanging with Theo Von. I'm speaking into existence. That's
I
it.
hope so.
All right, perfect.
He's my favorite comedian right now by
Nice.
far.
Oh my
Incredible.
God,
Incredible.
dude.
Wow.
On the
can't wait.
podcast, on the podcast side.
He's half
the best.
Venezuelan. He's half Venezuelan.
Yeah. So he gets away with saying stuff.
Dude, wait, my what does he call it? My I can't remember what it was.
No, you ain't gonna try
Something
saying
that's
it.
very
Yeah,
cancelable.
yeah. I know.
Oh.
Yeah. You just said my, and I knew enough to say.
Listen, Theo
let's
Von
pocket
had
that.
like, he's gone to the point that we all aspire to, where you're uncancelable. Like,
100%.
comedians are mostly
Oh
uncancelable.
no, he's from Nicaragua.
Yeah.
That's what it is. There
yeah,
we
you're
go.
the one that told me, but I'm not gonna. People can use their imagination. but he has
He's a
feeling.
legend, though. Absolute legend.
I got one more thing to say about Theo Von. Is if you guys ever see Caleb Presley, so YouTube.
Yeah.
Insane. It's
What?
funniest
Have you
motherfucker.
seen those two
What?
together?
I think
Okay, so Caleb Presley does these 5-minute interviews for Barstool. He's a former college athlete turned Barstool presenter. You saw Jack's reaction. For people that are listening, like Jack's reaction, just hearing the name, was just like,
It's so good.
he's so
Have you
funny.
seen him and Theo Von together,
Yes, it is
It's
one of
the
the
best.
greatest 5 minutes ever. And somebody wrote in the
though? Oh
comments.
no, there was
of
a whole podcast. Sorry, there's a whole
Oh
podcast
yeah, right.
on
So
Theo's
Caleb Presley went on Theo's pod, but when Theo Von went on Caleb's 5-minute interview, which is like 30 minutes, but they cut it. Like the editing on that is just so good. But somebody wrote like, Theo Von's actually not a very funny comedian, but then he goes, comma, everything he says is hilarious stuff. Like the way he
Yeah.
says it, just like
It's the best.
his cadence, just like how laid
It's
back.
like it's those thoughts you have in the back of your head, and then they just come out. He just says
Yeah,
exactly
he's
what he's thinking.
incredible. Anyways, that's
The
my
best.
content recommendation for the week. Let's get
There we
into
go.
Bilal. Sorry.
All
what are
right,
we
so
talking
let's
about?
let people know what we're talking about. Obviously, Twitter rebranding to X, X.com, the history there, what we think about it. Jack had a proposal, an open proposal to Elon Musk and team on Twitter that we can, on X, that we can, it's going to take a little time to get used to that. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of the approach. Then we're going to talk about Oppenheimer versus Barbie box office smash. And then if we get time, we'll talk about favorite Christopher Nolan films. But boys, only one place to start.
Oh, wait. Also, we're going to
Go
throw
on.
some Mbappe,
Messi and Mbappe.
news in
Yeah,
there.
let's see if we
Yeah,
get to that, because
we'll
it was a
get there.
fairy tale weekend there. But yeah, let's start with Twitter rebranding to X. I think we really just want to let Jack cook on this, because Jack, you're the resident brand expert. So let's just paint a picture. Maybe Trung, you want to say what has happened, and then we can get Jack cooking on
Yeah,
what
we'll
it
do
is.
a TLDR. So Elon Musk acquired Twitter, obviously closed the deal last October. It was an acrimonious process between Twitter and Elon. He's been hinting since the acquisition that he would rename the company to X. In the Elon Musk cinematic universe, like X.com is a very prominent storyline. He, funny enough, like this is how far the story goes back. So Jimmy Soni wrote a book about PayPal. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called The Founders. Do you know? Did you interview him, Bilal? You didn't hear him?
No.
Anyways, the story about PayPal was that, so Elon was obsessed with X.com, the URL, And I think at that time there's like that land grab. We had a famous URL land grabber here about a year ago. His name is Michael Saylor, if you guys remember. Mr. Saylor in a previous universe.
Sugarcube.com he owns for sure. Sugarcubetesla.com.
Rafa, please do that nostalgia throwback.
It's like, you know, if you invent a fusion reactor that can run a Tesla on a sugar cube for 100 years, and you ask me whether I would buy that instead of the Tesla, all other things being equal, I think I like the car with the fusion motor or the atomic overthruster.
So Elon, after selling his first company, invested and created a company called X.com to get the URL. This is how crazy it is. He exchanged cash and 4% equity in his business to get the URL. That's how much he wanted X.com. X.com was a payments firm. It merged with Peter Thiel's Confinity to create PayPal. TLDR, Elon eventually was kind of pushed out as CEO. And but after eBay acquired PayPal for, I believe, $1.8 billion in 2002 is when it closed, he walked away with $180 million. Fast forward 22 years, he did a space company and a car company. We don't have to talk about which companies those are, but X.com, he lost it, then reclaimed it in 2017. I believe the number somebody pulled was he paid $10 to $20 million for X.com. So,
Incredible.
guys, we have to talk about this because one of the biggest running jokes around this is that everyone squats on domain names, right? And they're like, he finally acted on it. It's like the most expensive acting on domain name. Bilal Zaidi, what domain do you have right now that you're squatting on will you one day put into a business? What are you sitting on right now?
I don't know about in a business, but I think I've got like trackinginvestments.com, Quota, or something like that. I have another one that is not mine, but if anyone is in the domain game and wants fundamentalist.com, very close. Yeah, that's a one-word, real word.
That sounds pretty heady.
You got to make sure you sell that to the right person, you know what I mean?
You got to make sure that you have a Cloudflare on that because the DDoS on that will be crazy.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Jack, do you have any good domains that you want to tell us about?
I got shitloads, boys.
Okay, so what are one? Like, I mean, you had business on Twitter for God's sake, and then you got
value, at value.
Oh, add value. Okay.
So if Elon, if you're listening, please reconsider the banning of that account. I'm trying to get that back.
Okay. What else? What URLs?
I have value.at, which is a decent one. What else do I have? I got basically every extension of VV. So VV dot with some pretty out there extensions.
Do you have VV.xxx? That's actually kind of cool.
VV.xyz.
Just in case you go OnlyFans one day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah. I got jack.art. That was expensive.
Oh, that's a good one.
I got a few NIA domains. Back in the day, I got NIA. I can't remember what. Just all of the.
.eth.btc. We really need to get the .btcs going because that was a whole episode we did. Me and Jack both got a bunch of those just in case that ever pops off.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
We had some incredible ones. Oh my God.
I know this is a bit of a sidebar, but I think Jack.art is gonna slay.
Yeah, I think that one might be worth something already.
I once owned upandtotherright.com.
So ventureattention.com.
Venture attention?
Ventureattention.com. vv.mba. I've got they're a little niche. Nothing that's like mass market.
Got excited by the MBA one there. I saw that.
So nothing like I know I'm like
nothing like alarm.com or anything like that.
It wouldn't be like trung.mba. That would be worth something as well because that's a running joke. But let's these are all great names. Let's get to the Elon X.com discussion now, boys. Because
payments firm, and he's been talking about it. He wants X.com now in the year 2023 versus in the year 1999. He wants to be the everything app, right?
Exactly.
And he wants it to be like WeChat in China. And obviously, as many people know or may not know, WeChat is like basically the equivalent of WhatsApp, Twitter, Uber, PayPal, Venmo, all into one app. Yeah. And obviously, in China, that's very different because China banned every other competitor from the West. So there is a space for one app just to take everything. And also at the time, in China, the way WeChat grew, there's so many path-dependent things like the context. It's like the internet wasn't very good in China in like the early 2010s, right? So it's like if you could have one company which is like really good performance on their app. They can win everything. So obviously those factors aren't really here for the X.com everything app vision. But Bilal, if you could read, I don't know if you have that up, what Elon, why he wanted to change the name. He actually responded to John Ehrlichman with a whole rationale. People may or may not agree with it, but I believe that this is what his why he said that he's changing the name.
This is the one where it says Twitter was acquired by X Corp. This one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Twitter was acquired by X Corp both to ensure freedom of speech and accelerant for X, the everything app. This is not simply a company renaming itself, but doing the same thing. The Twitter name made sense when it was just 140 character messages going back and forth, like birds tweeting. But now you can post almost anything, including several hours of video. In the months to come, we will add comprehensive communications and the ability to conduct your entire financial world. The Twitter name does not make sense in that context, so we must bid adieu to the bird.
So let me
go on.
Go ahead, Bilal.
I was gonna no, go on. I was gonna ask Jack about that, but go on.
Yeah, I was gonna add two things. Jack Dorsey actually responded to the name change. He said, Ralph, I could put up a tweet. He's like, I was actually interested in his response. I thought he was gonna be quite pissed because he's been open, he's been vocal when he wasn't happy with what some of the things that Elon did. But he said that he didn't think the Twitter name was actually as important moving forward if the vision was to create something more than the app. He said all that mattered was the utility. But this is where I wanted to ask Jack. I think Bilal had the same question. Jack, how do you feel about everything that was said? And could you address Jack Dorsey's tweet where he said, I think the utility is more important than the name here. Does the Twitter name have baggage where it is sheddable?
I think so. I also think there's like the narrative upside of something new is, this guy's pretty good at that too, right? Like, what was Tesla when it was a single, what was it, Lotus that they like put a battery in, basically, right? It's like the idea of declaring this massive vision for the thing, even if the starting point is completely abstract from that, which also I think gets you, I don't know, it buys you room to improve the thing too, right? In the minds of the people that are watching the growth of this thing, the people who do believe in it, the departure from, like, people have a definition of what Twitter is and what Twitter does and what to expect. So in a way, the name change at that level, in theory, allows people to consider different possibilities for what they would use it for, like the language used in that tweet that he responded with, right? Like, the interesting thing about Facebook trying to make money, like make a currency. Do you remember that? What was that? Libra or something that they were messing around with a few years ago? Like, doing that under the Facebook brand is kind of dead on arrival for that reason, versus this is going to be a feature basically within this bigger network of products. I imagine it's going to face a lot of the same challenges, but in my mind, it's way more of a, like, it creates so much more room for the thing to grow in every different direction, as opposed to it being criticized as, you know, Twitter not being suitable for doing X, Y, or Z, because it isn't. Like, the way I think you get new people or new behaviors to happen is to reconfigure that in some way, right? It's almost easier to get people to accept a different set of features under a new name than it is to get them to change their behavior on this thing that
on the existing one.
It is just I think he said the 140 character thought at a time going out tweet, and a lot of the like legacy blue check commentary on this rollout is like, you never change a brand where you become a verb. You know, this is like the marketing consultant that's never made a brand that got turned into a verb, but is like retroactively applying that rule. And yes, it's incredibly ballsy move, but what do you expect? Like, this guy's not buying Twitter, I don't think, to keep maintaining Twitter. It's like, there's obviously a vision bigger than that involves a bunch of other stuff being built. So yeah, in my mind, and also masterfully playing the attention game. I'm sure you guys have seen the tweets like, hey, I'm so outraged by this platform that I'm leaving. If you want to find me, I'll be here in 10. I'm still here. You know, it's like, yeah, the revealed preferences thing. Yeah.
People, and the other thing that, actually, Jack, I've seen that tweeted so many times. I laugh every time. It's hilarious, right? I hate this platform so much. I'll be tweeting about how much I hate it here.
Yeah.
But it's like, the thing I wanted to say, and that has been brought up too, is like, people keep saying it's testing, like Threads is people like, when Threads was launched by Zuck and Meta, it's like, if Twitter survives Threads, it's like, this network it's like, will last forever, right? This network effect. This is similar, right? You're talking about Threads 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then they're getting rid of the Twitter name. If Twitter survives both of these in like a month from now, and I can tell you, my level of addiction has not changed one iota.
I mean, it's crazy that people would even think it would. Like, it's not.
It hasn't changed.
Yeah, it's
It
like
has not
changing
changed.
the brand name of cigarette you smoke.
Yeah. Oh,
You
dude, this is a great analogy. Again, this is actually a great point, which has happened a lot, right, in the cigarette game. But I think people are misattributing how psychologically ill the people that are addicted to Twitter are. Like Bilal here. Actually, I would like to ask Bilal about this because Bilal is not as online as me and Jack or on Twitter.
I'm definitely. I know. I probably read it as much. Well, maybe not as much, but I'm on it all day as well. To be honest, I just don't post anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
But I have a limit of 15 minutes for every single social app, and then I extend it. So I'm like.
But do you keep on?
No, I
extending
extend it every day, but it just stops me from being on it for 6 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
But Twitter, I find myself less addicted to, but I still go on it every day for sure. Like probably an hour most days, half an hour to an hour. But I've limited it versus like a few years ago, I was on it for like 5 hours or some stupid
shit. So you literally do not care what it's called as long as it's serving you football memes and analysis.
Yeah. I don't really care about the name. I think there's a really interesting discussion. I think everything Jack said there is completely right. Like based on the context that Elon said that he wants to be more everything app, we know that vision. And to be fair as well, the negative connotation that Twitter has with a lot of people, this gives you a chance to go in a different direction, say we're no longer that old thing that you thought about, right? And just really quickly, this is something Trung had shared in our group chat. Companies that also changed their names: Amazon from Cadabra, Best Buy from Sound of Music, eBay, Auction Web, Facebook Meta, Google Backrub, and then later Alphabet, Instagram Bourbon. The list goes on, right? So there's been plenty of people who have changed their names before. I will say this feels a little bit different to Instagram changing their name, before it was hitting scale, right? Like this is legacy. This has got hundreds of millions of people already use it, and 1 billion people have tried it. And it's like Jack said, there is something to that argument around, like, there is a verb here. People attach some value in that. I know you were saying that you were criticizing that take, but that's kind of the first, like the most obvious thing you would say. It's same with when HBO changed their name to Max or whatever. Everyone was like, "Why would you take away?"
That's like a legitimately fucking crazy idea.
Yeah. There's
hold on a second.
The connotation of HBO is premium. Yeah,
go on.
No, but did I never say I came around to the name change?
No.
Granted, the context is this. All of it is idiotic from the top. Like they're making a lot of mistakes, right? However, this is the problem. They need a streaming service that has shit on it, like reality shows and what's the shit?
They need to differentiate the premium stuff.
The reality is this: 90% of stuff that's consumed on television, which is what streaming is trying to replace, is shit. It's fucking shit, dude. I mean, and they'll tell you this, right? It's not, nobody's watching The Wire while they're cooking, right? Like, you don't throw The Wire on or Sopranos, like, gonna prepare dinner, gonna put The Wire in the background.
You're watching Love is Blind.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're watching Love is Blind, you're watching, like, Home Builders.
The Bachelor, whatever people be watching.
So this was the argument. It was actually, but mind you, this is an argument after it had made so many mistakes. So I'm saying this because, I'll be honest, my knee-jerk reaction to the renamed X is like, I think that's a powerful brand. But I already walked my way around to the HBO Max thing, and not even justify the thing. They walked themselves into a corner. They're like, they have to compete with Netflix. They have this premium brand, that a lot of people actually don't want to subscribe to, right?
And
Like,
think of it as like a complete like luxury, or like I'll just buy the DVD set of the 2 things that I like, or rent it off Prime or whatever.
It's the only way to save them. With like, they have to save this name, right? So
wow, they're victim of your own success.
Exactly. That's literally what it is. It's like they went, and this is basically, I justify that move, but they made so many mistakes coming up to it that they kind of had to do this move, which is not good, right? But they had to do it.
So Trump, what do you think?
Do an analogy here. I'm just gonna double check, do a little fact check in here first.
Mind you, I did a very
Jamie and
viral
yourself.
meme, like following HBO Max for it, right? Like my gut reaction, like this is such a bad idea. But think about the large majority of people in America that have never consumed The Wire, Sopranos. That's not what they're interested in. They don't care about Succession. They want bullshit to watch. I watch bullshit, right? Like, I really like some bad stuff on TV. It's like, you're not going to go, oh, maybe I'll subscribe to HBO Max for like background noise while I'm cooking. Max, on the other hand,
I get
could be
that. I get
my
what you're
analogy,
saying,
boys.
Go on, Jack. We'll come back to ours.
Volkswagen Group
okay.
owns Bentley, Lamborghini, Bugatti.
There we go.
Continue.
And we haven't even talked about this, Bilal. Let's ask about. So here's the closest analogy, right? Bilal worked at Google. We have to mention once a week. Formerly employed by Google when they changed their name to Alphabet, but they changed it to a holding company. So I think the reality of what's going to happen in Twitter and X.
Same with Meta, right? Meta is also
Meta.
similar. Yeah.
It's like people are just going to call. People are still going to refer to it as Twitter and tweeting, even though Elon won't. I think the users, a lot of them will. And
I think but I will say that's slightly different to Alphabet and Meta, where Meta and Alphabet did that because they outgrew their core service, like Google people. And that, to me, made a lot of sense in terms of, I still didn't love it because I've also thought Google was like one of the most powerful brands in the world. Everyone knows it. But from their point of view, they said, we're going to create so many businesses we already have that it's going to be like one of every letter of the alphabet, right? Twitter, I guess, is saying that in a similar way of everything app X. That's where there's a similarity there, but they haven't done that yet. So I guess it's just an order thing. It's like Google and Facebook did it after creating 7 or 10 products that have 1 billion users. And now X or Twitter is going to say, well, we're going in that direction, so we're going to create that. For the everything app, I think X is an incredible name. I think that's actually super cool.
Oh, but like X this or like
it's like
X,
infinity, everything, right? But at the same time, I do think there's a valid argument to be made of you bought this IP, you bought this recognition, and you're losing a part of that. Like even in the HBO example, I get what you're saying, and I think you can make an argument either way, but you're also looking at that landscape, like how do you differentiate? So HBO was differentiated as you have this brand of like, you make good shit. So even if you're not watching The Wire and Sopranos, you know, generally speaking, the quality of the stuff is higher. But I get your point. If they're expanding that catalog and it's now got a bunch of shit in it, they don't want to devalue HBO brand with
they walk themselves
90 Day
into
Fiancé,
the corner, right?
I
agree with you. Like it's not like if you look at like as a business case study, like oh my god, they walked themselves into this awful decision they had to make.
Yeah.
But based on where they had got to. So what I love about Jackson, I never really thought about it, is like it's a full reset. And what Jack talked about actually reminded me of so every the newsletter the group of newsletter writers, you know.
I thought you were saying everything as every, you were like shortening it.
Well, you guys know every.com. They got great writing there. So like Evan Armstrong, Dan Schipper, Nathan Baschez. But TLDR is that they recently interviewed the former head of teenagers. Like Meta used to have like a person that ran the teenager group at the company. I guess it was Facebook at the time. And they interviewed him. He's the one that had convinced Zuckerberg to put stories into Instagram. And he actually had a very interesting concept I wanted to bring up. And it sounds similar to what Jack said. But he said, Threads actually isn't about Twitter. It's about Instagram. The network of Instagram is getting stale. It's like the influencers are winning now. Most people are really just consuming because the bar to post videos, especially because they're moving real style, and even photo is quite high, right? Writing is actually much easier entryway for anybody to create content. And what you do in that type of situation is you quote unquote reset the social network. That's basically what stories did. It changed the Instagram social network, change who you want to follow because of who's good at putting stories up, and change who actually was a creator because now stories is a new medium. He's like, Threads is like a reset on Instagram because it is getting stale. The social network is getting stale. I don't know if it's getting stale on Twitter, but I can see where resetting things has value.
Definitely.
So I mean, listen, Twitter is freaking. We talk about it all the time. Like, and Jax said this. Go ahead, Jack.
I would also say, like, he is in a unique position because of his ability to, like, if it was some, like, holding company that bought Twitter and wanted to rebrand it the next day, it's like, that's the fucking most idiotic thing you could do. But you have to think about even his distribution alone and the willingness to write about every decision he makes, good or bad, is you're operating from a completely different circumstance than just evaluating a name change of a brand, like a faceless brand, you know? And it's almost, maybe there is some comparison there to like the stuff we talked about with Mr. Beast, where the personality is at such scale and the distribution that comes with that some of the arguments just don't make sense to me, where it's like, people are not going to know that Twitter changed to X. It's like, literally, you're out there educating everybody about this. Like, you're so pissed off or so like riled up by this fact that you're making sure that nobody can miss this transition. And there isn't, like, in my mind, nobody's that confused. Like, Twitter.com is going to redirect there for anybody that didn't see the thing. And then you go on there one time, you're like, oh, it changed. The network effect endures, and people fucking keep doing what they were doing.
That's true.
It's just obviously a massive incentive to hop on the bandwagon of, this is a terrible idea. I'm a fucking, brand expert and student of network effects over 15 years. I don't buy it.
Well, Jack, I think that's a really good point, because I think the example we talked about, Facebook and Google changing their names, the actual similarity would be Facebook, the social network, or Instagram, the social network, or Google, the search engine, changing their actual name, and you went to google.com and it now said backrub.com or some shit like that, right? Or alphabet.com.
It literally wouldn't make a difference. I would just be like,
no, you're right. But now if you ask a person on the street, what search engine do you use? They're going to say Google. They're not going to say, I use Alphabet search engine, right? And same with, if you ask a 65-year-old, what's your favorite social network? They're going to say Facebook or Instagram or whatever they're using. So I think that's a slight difference, where those ones were motivated more, in my opinion, more on a corporate side, where it's like Wall Street is talking about Alphabet. They're growing into these things. Facebook is now growing into the metaverse. That was their focus, right? Like Square did it with whatever it's called now. What's it called, man? What's Square called again? Trunk? Block, exactly. So theirs was, but they're not. When you go to pay for something, I'm pretty sure it still says like a Square, card thing, right? So the difference here is, this is the consumer-facing brand changing, which is actually backs up all the things you were saying about refreshing, the making people more open to something new. When there's money features added in, bank account, whatever else is coming in the Everything app, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. And the comparison with the others is actually quite different. It's more about consumer-facing versus just business.
Aren't there parallels with like how the Tesla narrative evolves, where it's like, these going to be self-driving cars, you're going to be able to rent out your Tesla. The ability to do that and the condition for that to be possible is not here yet, but that narrative has bolstered support from like technology. Like, the technology narrative is so strong now that if you said, hey, we're going to add a tipping feature to Twitter, it's very different than we're going to rebrand to a everything network that includes messaging, financial transactions, media, blah, 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 blah. So I feel like that's part of the strategy too, is expand it so that like it can hold this much, much bigger narrative. And I'm sure there's raising money or taking it public or whatever the longer term goal is like, you have to, like, the Twitter narrative is basically, in terms of exponential growth, seems to be extremely...
It's dead.
Dead, yeah.
Dude, I love what you just said, because I'll tell you right now, if he took X public tomorrow, I think he could get the same insane Tesla hype around
Right.
it. Whereas Twitter was a flat.
Yeah,
for
that's a
10
great point.
So like, whatever people think, right, is like, if Elon took X public in the next 6 months, this thing will rip, and it
Yeah.
will have absolute backers.
Yeah.
And like, maybe honestly, now that you mentioned, that might be the play now, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not.
It's
That's
like-
a good
Kathy
point.
Wood coming in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kathy-
yeah,
So, like,
yeah.
listen, you can be cynical about that, but I'm saying like,
No,
No,
I'm
that's
serious
what
about it.
they're
I'm dead
based on.
serious.
It's based on future growth
raiser.
Yeah.
potential.
He's the greatest raiser of capital in the history of mankind. No one has raised more capital than Elon Musk. X.com or everything app can go out and raise infinite capital.
Yeah,
Dude,
exactly.
that's the move. Okay, Dell, you walked me into it. I was like lukewarm on the change. It wasn't like I was like fine. I wasn't like losing my mind over it. But now it's just like it's so obvious what's gonna
That's
happen.
how much value can you create?
Yeah.
As much as you like. Yeah.
It's
How
just-
much
X
value
amount.
is there?
Yeah,
How much
yeah.
value is there? That's it.
Exponential.
Enter Bill on X.
Yeah.
Yo,
No,
could I
that's-
ask, Trung, I want to ask you in a second about Elon's history of buying companies as well in a second. But before we do that, just want to ask, what are the tweets are going to be called X's? Is that what it is?
Well, my boy.
I think this is all
Brett from
speculation,
work,
isn't it?
he tweeted. Do you guys see that one? He said a tweet will be called a seat, XEET. Went super viral, but got community noted real hard.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
that was
fair
solid.
enough.
I'm like, man, that was a good one, dude. Yeah, Elon says it'll be called X's.
How does that, do you feel, no, Jack, objectively speaking, both of you, like, does that roll off the tongue like tweet? Let's be honest, like, I
No,
put
tweet's
out
an
an
incredible
X.
word. Tweet's
Does
an
the word
incredible.
Yeah,
X-
not right now. Not
It
now,
doesn't at
right?
the moment,
But
right? It might change.
I think language-wise, you might even, like, it will change the way people talk about
Yeah.
that stuff too, right? It's
Yo,
not.
send me the X. Man, can
Yeah.
you imagine if they own that letter? Like, I'm just saying, like, okay, we all know what the bear case is. Because every freaking galaxy brain media head is already talking about the bear case is. Or what's a bull case? X, they own one of the 26
Right.
letters of the alphabet.
Right.
That's very
Right?
Michael
How about that?
Saylor again. I
Yeah.
think he
Mhm.
owned a bunch of letters.
Yeah, he owned a bunch of letters and then SpaceX, Model X.
I
Anyways.
generally, if you were starting a company from scratch, if you said X.com or Twitter.com, I would always say, oh, X is an incredible name. But yeah, so I think it's a really good discussion. One quick question I had for you, Trung, probably, and maybe Jack, you know about this too. Do you know much about the history of Elon buying companies and then rebranding them or, changing the vision? So obviously there's Tesla, SpaceX. What the Tesla was an acquisition, no? Like, but really
No,
small.
so he
it was like early.
he was they hadn't produced a car before his investment, like Jack said. It was like a Lotus with a battery in it. They'd never gone to production.
But it was an
that's it.
existing company, a tiny
It was an
existing company.
existing company. It was like
Yeah.
they were on the brink of bankruptcy. I think he pumped 30 mil into them. And I mean, they never created a single car until
Yeah,
Elon
yeah, for sure.
right, manufactured. So he it's quite acrimonious, but I mean, he's basically a founder of Tesla, even though he
And
outside of
what
sir-
about SpaceX? Was that from scratch or was
founder,
that also
yeah, that's
something?
from scratch. SpaceX is from scratch.
What about the
X.com was
old
from scratch.
PayPal? Yeah, X.com. What was that?
X.com was from scratch. And his very first company, which keeps slipping my mind, was also from scratch with his brother. It
Oh,
was like
cool.
an early form of Google Maps.
Kimball.
and-
Is it Kimball's brother?
Yeah, him Kimball created. What was
Ledge.
Kimball's-
Something
Okay.
2, right? The 2 in the middle
Yeah,
of
Zip
it.
2, Zip 2.
Zip 2, yeah.
Zip 2. What was that again? Do you remember? I remember
Maps.
It's like
reading
an
about
early
it.
Google Maps classified type of business.
Got it.
Sold to Compaq for like 270 mil.
Because there's an Isaacson book coming out on Elon too, right? I think
Oh,
because
yeah,
I read
just
the
sold.
old one, which was really cool. I'm
Actually, Vince.
excited to see the Isaacson one because Walter Isaacson does not play around with
hundo.
biographies. He's the king of that. But the last question I had for you guys was: are there other brands that come to mind where you think about the rebrands that went in a positive direction, like this? Like, because Jack, you just mentioned, was it Fiat or Volkswagen? Which one was the holding company?
VW
Volkswagen
Group,
Group,
isn't it?
VW Group, and that was a great example of like the brand. You don't think of VW as a luxury car, but all the other ones were luxury, obviously. Are there other ones where you've seen where we can look back and say they changed their name and it made sense, then it actually worked out?
Nike.
Nike
yeah,
was Blue Ribbon Sports. I think that's something
classic
Bilal
one.
brought up is true though. Like, a lot of these happened so early in the.
Yeah.
I get it's all relative, right?
Yeah,
Visa and MasterCard were, I think it's known as Bank of America card for Visa and MasterCharge for MasterCard, is like, I remember that relative to a lot of companies we're talking about, like Twitter is 15 years old. Like I'd have to look when these name changes happened. But dude, it's like, it's a network effect final boss, man. Like that addiction it has on your brain, like we'll see. But
That's fair.
what I do want to say is we never let Jack really cook on the logo.
Yeah,
we
I was
pull
going to say,
up, Jack?
Jack, do you want to bring up your tweet thread? Because this was the permissionless apprentice in
Yeah,
action.
Sunday,
Beautiful.
Saturday night, Sunday morning, Elon basically said X is going away. And something that's been brought up by a lot of people is that he does all these wild Twitter changes or these big Twitter changes over the weekend because he's working real jobs during the week. You have to remember, like, his bread is butter by Tesla and SpaceX. Like, that's where his $230 billion fortune comes from, right? And Twitter really was and always has been.
It's a weekend project, basically.
Project, basically, for Elon.
So some
right?
people start newsletters, other people buy Twitter as a company.
Twitter.
Yeah.
So,
Jack, you got that, or do you want to share your screen? Or yeah.
You see it?
Yeah. So Elon was taking pitches for logos. So the one that came out now, you'll see, Jack. Can you put the cursor up to the Twitter logo? It's in the top. Yeah. So now it's X for the listeners. It turns out that's like an existing Unicode, so it's not even like a create. Well, Jack, talk through what the logo is, what you propose, and how do you feel about the current logo?
So my proposal is like somewhat satirical, right? It's like taking the blue check mark, which was obviously a massive part of this narrative and the takeover and the feathers that have been ruffled in purchasing Twitter, and then switching out the check for an X in the and given our conversation, this doesn't make as much sense because it's a direct evolution of like the messaging platform and the status of the individual, blah, blah, blah. They went with this Unicode. I don't even know if I've been able to trace who came up with this thing, but it's like he did mention he wanted some Art Deco themed typography or an Art Deco type look. And this has the differing weight strokes on the two lines. Incredibly simple. And I don't honestly part of what's been inspiring about watching this is like not paying too much. He's like, yeah, we're going to put this up and this is an unrefined version and we'll keep working on it. Right. And that's, I guess, the beauty of like, you don't rely on that stuff as much as you rely on the shortness of the X, right? You could basically put any X up there and to think that if anything, like putting a haphazard rushed logo up there and it carrying on business as usual is a great testament to the fact that this shit doesn't really matter. Like at that size, that scale, that enduring network effect. So yeah, my suggestion was based obviously on the work that I've been doing all year with the check stuff, inverting that, playing with this idea of status, and then put like a little collage together of all of the
really
portfolio companies. And that like keeps a little bit of the visual equity of Twitter, right? If you were more concerned about that, and this thing was going to be more of a communication messaging thing first and foremost, then I would pitch that. But if that's not the case, then I whacked a few others out. So also
your Infinity one was cool.
So this idea is actually something that I discovered after the check stuff. Is the kind of scallop edge on the check mark is 4 infinity symbols rotated perfectly, and then the middle of that is an X. And that's like the conversation we were just having about infinite applications of this thing. There's an interesting contrast in that. So that was another submission, is throwing that in there.
How quick did you do these?
That was sick.
Actually, dude, you know what, man? I was looking at two things I want to point out. First of all, when Jack was showing that tweet, it literally said tweet pointing at the X.
Yeah.
Speaking to how like the role, dude, that's a great point, Bob. But like, it was so it felt so haphazardly done. Ask somebody for a logo, but it actually kind of also is like, listen, this is not what's truly important.
Right.
What
and
is
everybody,
really
the mid-curve obsession with that shit is funny. Like, you think you're going to just you think that's destruction of value, but it's
And
I don't
network,
know.
it is
It's just not even
insane how
close.
powerful this network effect is. It is actually remarkable.
Well, and
Great.
I think we've had the threads thing be an example of that, right? Just to really highlight the features of this thing are not irrelevant, but the value of the network is just orders of magnitude more important than being able to clone the product. Like there's, I think you tweeted this at one point. You remember the Sailor Apple video?
Yeah.
And it, like, you're extrapolating, forget about the hardware, forget about all of that stuff. Just think about the value of the network of people that there's a massive switching cost to leaving Apple. And even the people that went from Twitter to Instagram on the day of that, or Threads, sorry, on the day of that change, did not experience that network effect on Threads. Maybe the numbers showed that you're experiencing network effect, but you did not have the same experience. Like that, it just felt like this corporate, sterile, like completely different digital environment than Twitter, even though all of the features are the same. It's kind of like if you extrapolate that to a physical place, it's like a synthetic version of something that you spend all your time in a certain place, and then someone makes a clone of it full of different people, and everything kind of looks sort of the same, but not. It's just, I don't know, it's not replicating the things that are valuable about that network. And changing a logo on a whim and usage probably going up is just proof that like it's not as deep as people think. And what we're talking about with just being backed in a corner, like you have to take big risks and make huge swings in different directions to, like, what is Twitter, like, on paper, isn't it worth half of what he paid for it at this point? So it's like you have to change the narrative. Yeah, you have to aggressively change the narrative. And the beauty of this, I guess, is with every change comes a huge amount of attention of people either criticizing it or supporting it. Or there was like a little niche of design Twitter, like, why are people doing logo designs for free for this thing? It's like, yeah, getting 500,000 impressions on your work for like a 15-minute concept you did in Figma, that's not free, right? That's like, there's a very real trade-off that's valuable for you as a, anyway, that's a whole nother episode, but
no, that's
fun
a great
to watch.
point. That's great. Right, it's sick that you put that together, obviously, so quickly with a lot of thought. I also think, like you said, if the brief was, we want to not have anything to do with the old Twitter, you would have had a completely different frame of reference to do that from. And I also agree, it's like the cool thing that he's doing, like you said, like putting it out and saying, oh, it's not even fully, the resolution's not fully there, whatever, like, we're going to adjust this. That's kind of cool in a way, like that. There's a massive network where he's equivalent of Think Boy working in public, whatever the phrase was.
You know what's interesting about that kind of stuff is, like, it's fascinating that people don't know that that's how things work either, right? Like, you try shit, and if it goes wrong, you reverse it or you change it. And the fact that it's so normalized that all of that, like, all of this process should be done in silent and then shipped, and most of this stuff fails just because nobody's looking at it, right? There are tens of millions of creative endeavors happening every day that have no resonance or fail or whatever else. It's actually, in my mind, it will change a lot of people's minds about how to work and how to, like, when there's stakes, like, these stakes are not particularly high, like, if you're launching hardware into space, you have to do your math, right? You have to get that figured out.
Yeah, you're not like putting out stuff highly there. That's
you're not taking user mock-ups of a space design
for a rocket. Yeah,
and maybe that's part of it too. Like, it feels less like it is. I don't know. Somebody exposed to those types of problems maybe sees this as more of a malleable, lower stakes, like, let's run like bigger, wilder experiments because you're changing the logo on a website, right? It's not like, it seems crazy for people because this thing's been around for 15 years, but I guess in the context of some of the other stuff, not that nuts. And if you're, I guess it's relative risk too. for somebody working a corporate job that is, let's say marketing consultant that has an opinion on why Twitter has brand equity, they're not in a position where they're trying to protect their downside at all times. This is nobody got fired for hiring IBM. It's like, let's do the risk averse. There's an example from the Harvard Business School that says that this works, so let's do that. Versus, this is a Hail Mary, 5% of my net worth on this experiment that I want to run. And I'm going to treat it totally differently than I just love watching it, and to see that entire the uniqueness of that go unappreciated is a little bit sad, to be honest.
Yeah.
You bring such a great point. My last thought on this is kind of jumping off what you're saying is how different this is, right? You have to treat it as, think about the context of everything else he does, and this thing which you can change overnight, this code, and have a new logo. But going back to your original X thought, right? When you're saying, think about all the possibilities, literally now he's created the possibility that Twitter might come back as a brand. That, you know what I mean? There's this world now. I was like, okay, can you see this guy, Elon, in 3 months being like, hey, listen, I'll run a poll. If enough people vote, 10 million, we'll bring back Twitter. That's just, he's created a new move now, right? That move didn't exist.
Yeah.
Imagine the hype and the excitement around that. It's like, okay, I've listened to everyone. We're bringing back Twitter. It's like, now that move exists, which would just be hilarious, right? And drive an insane amount of attention.
I also read, so I'm not clued up enough on this, but the idea of this XAI, which we haven't spoken about on the pod yet, right? I don't know if any of you boys watched I didn't listen to the live, to what that thing is. I need to look at that, but that's also this cohesion play between those two things, because this is going to be the engine of data that becomes XAI, right? And ChatGPT, we also didn't talk about WorldCoin and ChatGPT, right? Which is this, Avengers style arc of Altman Musk, where you have the two different approaches to AI platforms and value exchange in ChatGPT versus XAI. Yeah, and I think that ChatGPT's got to be second place in maybe not, maybe I'm overestimating that, but the collective consciousness of technology news, ChatGPT is up there right now, as part of the narrative of technology, and having the platform that all that stuff is discussed on be directly connected to the competitor that you're building in AI is not a bad thing either. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that link between the two. That's a good shout to bring up.
Well, I love the XAI thing too, Jack, and this will actually be my final thought on this, because now imagine you roll out a year from now, that combined entity, you're saying, oh, here's our 20-person super team of AI experts. Here's the proprietary data set that they have to build generative AI tools. And then we got finance, our boy Chris Bakke with Lasky. I don't remember the first company that Twitter acquired under Elon.
Yeah.
It was Lasky, it's a hiring platform. Workweek has used it. LinkedIn competitor. You start doing these narratives now. This thing goes public in a year.
Crazy.
You're right. It's
and it's
you can see a path.
The
way you described it.
The Giga Brain play too is you own the data too.
Yeah.
It's ChatGPT is all built on stolen data, right? He's bought the only data set that you can legitimately train an AI on and say you own the data that it trained on, and that stuff is
real time.
Real time.
And you know what? That's a good shout, because one of the things I heard is, even on the Google side, that Google and Twitter had for years an agreement to be able to use Twitter inside the Google search engine and stuff like that. And there was this real-time thing that they added while I was there years ago. And this isn't confirmed, but just something I'm pretty sure there was a negotiation happening between when he came in. I'm pretty sure there was a discussion about that. And I'm pretty sure he was kind of blocking it. Like, well, he's probably reevaluating that deal, saying this should be worth way more than you're paying or something like that. This is me just assuming, and no one's told me this in particular, but that's my gut feeling on it. And that makes a lot of sense. Like if you're going 2-3 steps ahead, and he's like, well, in the back of my brain, I've got this X.AI, and the only thing that differentiates ChatGPT, Bard, etc., is the access to the data, because the other stuff is open source pretty much. Like everyone is building a similar sort of model around that. And so the access to the unique data is one of the key ingredients. And so if he's like, well, I'm going to save this for my own AI pleasures, that is actually something I didn't even think about. That is mad. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it is the perfect fuel mixture for that thing you're trying to build, right?
That's why son wants threads.
Yeah.
He wants text. He needs more text.
And all you're getting is Ellen DeGeneres saying hello on there.
Whichever breakfast. Yeah.
Whichever. Well, I think you guys have made a very compelling case for it, and I agree. Like to summarize, like the first initial take is always kind of simplistic, which is, oh, there's this old thing, why are you changing it, blah blah blah. But we spent 35, 40 minutes, whatever it's been, talking about
talked
like
to me
the
into
upsides.
it. I gotta say, I was not there. I did not. This is the beauty of this part of talking about old friends here. Listen, I didn't even think about the going public angle.
The AI thing is all,
We're talking about pure hype. If this thing went public tomorrow with XAI,
a game over, man.
With the hype.
How many people wish they bought Tesla at, $30?
Oh my goodness, dude.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's a good.
Legitimately.
If Elon does pull this off, let's say a year or 2 from now, and he managed to do all those things, I mean, that will, hats off. There's nothing that compares. Like, this is a massive turnaround. Yeah, and at the moment, it's not there, to be frank, right? Like, but it's still early.
It's not, but it's all narrative, right? People
but it's all
love
narrative,
the narrative.
exactly.
Dude,
I agree.
X.com and Twitter is an underdog story now. It's like underdog in the sense of like, wow, Elon's destroyed, even in his own words, $30 to $35 billion of value. How will Twitter ever come back? The richest man in the world has an underdog play, which is literally on the weekend. This is something he does.
Wow, that's funny.
Maybe weekends.
That's a funny way to put it.
Wild, dude.
All right, boys, that was great.
One other last thing I was
Jack.
going to say is they're going to do like a little brokerage thing on there too. So the like...
What's the brokerage thing?
Like the Robinhood, they'll build a Robinhood competitor on there. Because like financial news and integration of tickers and buy, sell.
Are they actually doing that? Is that confirmed?
They will. It's not confirmed, but they will.
Yeah, but it makes sense. Especially if they're going to do the other finance
have that
stuff.
Ready for the IPO, man.
Can you imagine
in your X?
Oh my god! Could you imagine that? Oh my god, that is wild.
Shares in your Jack might be the most bullish guy on this. I did not expect
that is incredible.
Jack to be.
I'm incredibly.
I'll be honest with you. I expected Jack to be more sanguine on the change because Jack is Mr. Brandon IP.
Yeah,
he knows how powerful that stuff is. But
this is a real incredible exception to a lot of the rules because of the conditions.
That's a good point.
This individual could probably even try this without it being dead at arrival, right? Like, listen, this is still, like Bilal says, this is still an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But that's the narrative.
That's what value creation is, right?
Yeah. Beautifully put. Great. No, this conversation went in direction I didn't expect in a good way.
I did not expect that.
Which is the beauty of a podcast. We couldn't
investment
definitely
advice.
Not. You couldn't have done this in a Twitter thread. Like, this needed to be long form off the dome. You know what I mean?
So that was good.
All right, beautiful. Let's move on, boys. All right, boys. Let's talk about Barbie and Oppenheimer, the box office weekend hits. Well, first of all, before we go into the numbers, did either of you see any of the movies?
I'm watching.
Trung, were you dressed in pink? What sort of Barbie did you go to watch Barbie movie?
I had the Oppenheimer hat, the suit.
There we
my
go.
wife dressed up as Albert Einstein. No, I'm joking,
Did you legit go to watch the film yet?
No, I'm going tomorrow, which is Wednesday.
And Jack, you didn't watch it yet, I assume, right?
Not yet. No.
Bilal, how about you?
No, not yet. Though I do want to see.
What was your excuse, dude? Man,
my missus was.
You should have seen them both.
Yeah.
We were gonna watch. I was gonna watch Barbie with the missus, but then she was in the Hamptons with her girlfriends, and they went to watch it. And she told me she said it one it was great. She loved it. And two, she said people were dressed up. Like, you know, when we talked about, what was that other movie, the Minions one?
Yeah.
People dress. So she said people were dressing up as a Barbie, like, you know, that workout Barbie, the night out Barbie, whatever.
Must have been a nice theater to be sitting in.
Yeah.
Hey, boys.
Yeah,
Boys,
go on.
sorry, back to the last topic. The X logo has just changed.
Oh, wait, what happened now?
They
Again?
just thickened it up a little bit. Just
Let's see.
refined
Let's
it.
see. Let's see.
You want to see it? Here you go. Futuristic
people-
Art Deco. Here you go.
This is why people listen.
See?
Oh, wow. Look at
Yeah,
that.
they did make that
A little
thicker, yeah.
refinement going
Okay,
on. Yeah.
here we go. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
This
you
is-
even saw, I'm pretty sure there, unless that was my
There you
the
go.
buffering. Here we go.
People, this is what we're talking about.
Thick.
This is we're all in this narrative journey.
There we go.
If you're in this Twitter online world, you're watching. You are watching.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Back-
continue. Sorry,
Beautiful,
boys. I know
beautiful.
breaking
No, it's
news.
Love it.
Break-
No, go
yeah,
on. So
this
we're
is-
saying that Barbie people dressed up. I think they were smashing it there. Oppenheimer, obviously, you know, one of the most anticipated films of the year. But do we have the numbers there, Trunk?
Yeah, I'll throw you some numbers. So let me give
Yeah.
you some context. So obviously, we're coming post-COVID. We talked about Taylor Swift 2 weeks ago, how the bounce back from COVID, people want the in real life experience. However, amidst an actor and writer strike, which we've discussed in the past few months on this show, you know, Hollywood actually isn't doing so hot. The franchises that we've depended on to bring people to the theaters, like, have you guys watched Fast, Indiana Jones, or Mission Impossible? Any of those? All came out this
Not the
summer.
new ones, but
No,
Yeah.
no, yeah.
at some point, yeah.
They all
Yeah, the
came
old
out
ones,
this
obviously,
summer.
yeah.
Pixar had a movie come out. Relative to the previous installations of these type of films, all are down 20, 30, 40% versus the previous iterations. So Hollywood's not doing so great right now. And Barbiheimer, you mentioned Minions, Bilal, which is actually, I love that episode that we talked about, because I'll tell you something we talked about in that episode. It was Bilal that you brought it up. I don't know if you remember this. I asked you, is it possible to recreate that meme vibe that happened with Minions? For people who don't remember, there was this whole vibe called Gentle Minions. Young 20-year-olds, that's 20-year-olds going to theaters in suits, right? And Mr. Beast caught onto the meme, wore a suit, got like 300 of his boys to go up to watch a Minions film. But like the whole point is, that film crushed it because you gave reason to people to go in person to a live event together instead of doom scrolling on Twitter/X like we do every day or on TikTok, right? I think, Bilal, you said this, and I'd love for your thoughts on it. To recreate that meme experience, it's almost impossible. What you're doing actually is you're throwing 100 darts on the board as a marketing team for a film, and you're hitting hoping something hits, right? Like, is this broadly correct, Bilal? Like, you're shooting darts on the board for marketing, and you're hoping something hits. Jack too. Like, you're probably in this game. You're doing like the equivalent of activation for a brand. You're like, here are 100 ideas. We just hope one thing hits. You can't make it happen, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you guys probably been following the Barbie marketing. They've gone out of control. They've done over 100 partnerships. We probably saw the Malibu Airbnb house was really well done. Just have a pink house in Malibu. You could rent an Airbnb. They've done partnerships with every brand you can imagine.
They've done an incredible job. But also, I was going to say,
Incredible.
Trung, even on any media channel, if I go on YouTube, TikTok, and you couldn't get away from it. Like, there was like Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling with 100 puppies, like what on Vogue or something like that. I'm like, what the hell is this? But it's made for,
Mind you,
you're
every
gonna click
movie
on that.
does this though, right? Every movie does this. Like,
yeah.
every movie that of this size spends 100 million. But the breakthrough here obviously came with Oppenheimer opening on the same day. Like, two diametrically opposed movies and themes. And there's actually a very interesting backstory to this. So Nolan used to make his movies with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers just released Barbie. But Nolan had a falling out with Warner Brothers because they wanted to release films on streaming and in theaters within like a 2-week window, if not at the same time. And Nolan is one of our last peer directors, right? He's like, no. We're not doing that. Like, if we release a Christopher Nolan movie, you're keeping that off of any other platform for months. Oh, you have to go to theaters to watch this. Especially Oppenheimer, when she filmed in, I think, 70 millimeter IMAX. There aren't that many theaters in the world for it. But the point is this. He had a falling out with Warner, so he goes to Universal to make Oppenheimer. Warner wants to stick it to Nolan because they know he likes to release a movie mid-July, so they put Barbie on his Oppenheimer day. So, like, Barbie was
that's
kind
incredible.
of
I
the
didn't
studio's
realize
way
that.
to stick it to Oppenheimer, stick it to Nolan. But here's the crazy thing. Yeah, apparently, this is coming from this is from Matt Bellany at Puck.News. So 6 million of the 80 million domestic that Oppenheimer made, which was almost double initial estimates, was from people that wanted to go see Barbie, but Barbie was sold out and they went to Oppenheimer. So like
Oh, no way. That's
Warner Brothers
hilarious.
like kind of like
Yeah.
pumped up their boy who they tried to stick it to. But anyways, the numbers are insane. I think combined they did 300 million, which is the biggest weekend for Hollywood period since Avengers Endgame in 2019, which is a culmination of a decade of marveling. And I just think that my takeaway from all this is I don't know how replicable this is. This is the reality. I think it's quite dark days in Hollywood with the strikes going on. And even though Barbiheimer had this blowout weekend, if you 50,000 foot it, you're talking like these franchises like Indiana Jones, Fast, Mission.
Well, and these things
Impossible,
took
Pixar.
years to make too, right?
Yeah, it took them years. It's like they done it. So like you can't expect Barbiheimer to keep happening, right? So like how replicable is this? Like people trying to pull lessons from it. So again, Matt Bellany, which writes Puck.News, media insider, he actually has a very interesting podcast too called The Town. I highly recommend listening to it. It's short, it's about 30 minutes, a couple times a week. Are you guys familiar with this this other movie that's killing it, which is like QAnon adjacent?
I know
No,
the
what's it
title
called?
of it. I haven't
Yeah,
seen
you
it.
know what I'm talking about, right, Jack? Okay, so before I talk about this film, which according to Matt Bellany is actually the larger lesson of the summer, if anything could be taken at all, what do you guys think about what's happening in Barbiheimer? Are there any lessons here, or is it just like the perfect storm?
Perfect Storm. It's like, it feels to me like those two films basically capture the entirety of people who want to watch films at the cinema. You know, it's like the spillover that you're describing. And I think the comparisons are interesting too, because kids watch Barbie. So the market for Barbie is probably 5 times the size of Oppenheimer, right? So
Yeah,
that's when I see the numbers, it's like, I mean, that's interesting just in general, right? Where people don't extrapolate the numbers relative to who can even go and see it. Because I'm assuming there's an age restriction on going to see a film about a nuclear bomb, right?
and it's 3 hours long, right? And it's 3
Yeah.
hours long.
Yeah,
Right?
they couldn't be different in terms of the types of films there as well.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
to your point, right?
Yeah.
Of the 300 million I said this weekend, like Barbie's responsible for 60 to 70 of it, right? It's like exactly
Yeah.
like Jack saying, Oppenheimer
Well,
is not the largest part of this pie.
but also I think, like you said, the spillover thing was one part, but also just there's an argument to be made just like more movies should be coupled up together that are,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's
The
hard
hype,
to
yeah.
plan that, right? Like around that, because I don't think this was planned in the same way. Like if anything, they were trying to do the
It
opposite
was
and
out of
crush their
spite.
boy.
Yeah, they're trying
Out
to
of
out of
spite, but it
spite.
ended up helping both out in a way, because now everyone was saying, like for example, in my relationship, I wasn't really thinking about going to see Barbie, but my missus like, oh yeah, we should go watch it. And I'm like, oh yeah, cool, we'll watch that, and then you come watch Oppenheimer
Yeah.
with me. And she's like,
Yeah.
all right,
Oh, the
cool, deal.
trade-off.
Yeah, it was kind of like we get to watch Love is Blind tonight, but then we're watching Breaking Bad tomorrow, or whatever. So
Well,
it
you
was
know-
like, yeah, gone.
I was just gonna say the subject matter contrast also made for basically it's like the perfect meme format, comedy
my
format,
God.
right?
The
Which
greatest meme format
that's
ever.
that's definitely something to learn. Like
Oh,
even
yeah.
on a more practical level, in like the very first stuff I used to do for Visualize Value was like contrast was like a really powerful device to make a point. And you know the meme of the Margot Robbie like grinning out of the car, and then you got Matey staring into the camera with the cigarette hanging out his
Matey,
mouth.
oh,
Matey. Are
I
you
can't
talking
remember his
about
name.
Ryan Gosling, or are you
No,
talking
no,
about
no.
Oppenheimer guy?
Oppenheimer lead.
Cillian
What's his
Murphy.
name?
Yeah,
Cillian
yeah.
Murphy.
Cillian Murphy. Yeah, that's
Oh yeah, what a
disrespectful.
lad.
What an
He's
incredible
the guy
yeah.
from what's the show?
Peaky Blinders.
Peaky Blinders. What a lad.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So, and that that format just transcended everything, right? It became this meme format that no matter what you care about, what you're into, what your like in joke in your specific circle of people is, you could play with that format, and that's still going on now, right? It's just
Oh
it was
yeah, it's
incredible.
still there's been some good the screen caps when they pull out that one when they take the lines from the films and make the memes from them. That's a great point. That is a good lesson. And I'll bring up 2 points. One that I know Bilal will get excited to hear about, but the first one is 2008. This is not as contrasty, but Mamma Mia went up against The Dark Knight. Mamma Mia, by the way, slaps. If you haven't seen Mamma Mia, people, go watch that film. Based on the ABBA soundtrack. Or not soundtrack, their catalog music. But the other one, so to your point about opening on the same day, I know Bilal will like this. You guys remember 50 versus Kanye? How great of a battle was that?
50 versus Kanye. Wait, when did that happen again?
Drops.
Remind me.
Well, the one after
the
that.
album
Yeah.
dropped.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So like, it's always good to like create events, right? It's like the same with like the Elon versus Zucka cage match. It's like, yeah, there's a lesson out of it, but the thing is, you can't. It was perfect, right? It'll be very difficult to manufacture this. But having said that, at a minimum, maybe it's worth trying in the future. But Bilal, did you have some thoughts? You're cooking on the phone right there.
Yeah, no, I was looking up the Mbappe number, so we're ready for that
okay,
next
perfect for
after.
the next
But
one. Okay.
no, we can no. I think it was 250 to 300 mil this weekend, right? Was the last numbers on Oppenheimer and Barbie. No, that I think you covered it there. I think we got.
Hey, I got another numbers question. Do you have budget comparisons between those two?
That's a good point.
Actually, Bilal, you want to pull up the budget numbers, and I'll talk about the other lesson that Matt Bellany mentioned. So, industry insider Matt Bellany says a real lesson here is to look at Sound of Freedom. So, Jack, that's the name of the movie. It's a movie about sex trafficking. Some people believe it's based on QAnon lore, but the director says that is not true. It's starring Caviezel, who was, I believe, Jesus and Passion of the Christ. But this movie obviously appeals to a very conservative religious crowd, right? But they actually do something that's kind of crazy. So Sound of Freedom, which was made in 2018, wasn't released until now. It's cost 100 mil. No one expected it. But this is what's happening. People that watch the movie, at the end of the movie, the main actor Caviezel asked them, he's like, hey, listen, if you enjoyed this movie, and you like the message and the warning we have around sex trafficking, would you please buy a ticket for somebody you think that should watch this movie? So people are literally paying forward and buying tickets for people. So there's actually a meme that's going around that was like, a lot of these showings for this movie are quote unquote sold out, but actually it's like a third full because these tickets are being paid forward and people aren't actually even going to watch them. So I don't know how replicable that is, but that is an interesting hack around using niche communities and messaging and, hey, we're all in this together. Here's a powerful message that we should share. I just found that interesting, man.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's like, I mean, we always bring on the marketing mechanisms on NIA.
Yeah.
That is one of them.
So, boys, I think I looked it up. I think if this is correct, cost 145 mil for Barbie and 100 for Oppenheimer. If that's correct. And
Barbie's gonna crush. Barbie's gonna absolutely slay.
That's pretty insane. I'm looking, budget. Well, not on IMDb is saying the budget is 100 mil for Barbie estimated. So I saw between 100 and 150. So yeah, I can double check Oppenheimer as well. But that is, they're box office hits. These were both made to be top draw, right? So Trung, how does that usually compare to other big films? Like, do you know roughly how much it usually is?
100 to 200 is blockbuster zone. Yeah, that's the blockbuster.
So that's
zone.
normal. So that's
Dark Knight was 185 mil.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
You always put a bit more ammo behind the sequels because you know the built-in audience is there.
Well, sorry, and I just double check on IMDb. Both of them are saying 100 estimated, but I've seen between 100 and 180, so it could be either of those. But either way, I mean, I think they're going to crush. That's
What's Ryan Gosling getting paid? Do you know, Trung?
I don't know that number. Bilal, you want to pull up?
This is his first movie in years.
They don't have to publish it, do they?
I don't think they have to.
Don't think so.
All right, never mind.
All right, anything else on that before we talk about Christopher Nolan movies, boys? I think that was a nice little breakdown. Any more thoughts?
I'm ready to rock and roll.
All right, what do we want to talk about on Christopher Nolan, boys? I mean, he's one of the best directors of all time. So what did you have in mind, Trung?
I'm
Go ahead, Jack.
3 films behind on Christopher Nolan's.
Okay, that's cool.
Um,
Dunkirk's amazing. You should watch Dunkirk. And
Still haven't watched Dunkirk either.
yeah, well, why don't we do this? We should hold on Nolan because none of us watch Oppenheimer, and we're
Oh,
doing
that's
movies
true.
with
yeah,
him.
Maybe we'll
do
wait.
a little homework assignment.
Let me do
Yeah,
one
yeah.
thing about Oppenheimer. Shout out to our boy David Senra, Founders Podcast. I would highly advise people listen to the podcast episode, The General and the Genius. It's about Leslie Groves, General Leslie Groves, who ran the Manhattan Project and why he picked Oppenheimer. But here's one nugget from that podcast. Please listen to it from our boy David Senra. That Founders Podcast episode, he talked about Steve Jobs actually looked at Oppenheimer as a model for building a team because the Manhattan Project was some of the greatest scientists ever. So Steve Jobs studied that. He's like, wow, how did Oppenheimer run this incredible team of A players? And that's how kind of Jobs looked at Apple. He said, I don't want A players, and I'm just going to let them run loose. But anyways, shout out to David Senra, our boy. But let's go to the last topic. This is a very Bilal Zaidi topic, so I'm going to tee him up. Bilal Zaidi. We've talked about Lionel Messi joining the Inter Miami in the MLS. A lot of hype around that. His deal that includes streaming rev share from Apple Plus. Why don't you tell us what happened?
Fucking
Much
incredible.
His first game.
Incredible.
What happened with Messi's first game
Did
in
you guys
Miami?
see this? Did you
I
watch it
didn't watch
live
the
or you
game,
just
but
saw
I've
the
seen
clips?
I've seen the highlights.
Yeah, we'll let
Beautiful.
Bilal tee it up, and then Bilal, can you cook on Kylian Mbappe being offered
Yeah.
$776 million to play one season?
1 year. 1 year.
one
Well,
year
so
in
the
Saudi
Messi
Arabia.
thing, for people that didn't see, I don't think I've ever watched a full MLS game. I'm not against it. It's just not.
Disgraceful.
There's so
Bilal.
many leagues to follow that I just about follow Arsenal. But now with Messi here, I'm really tempted. I mean, I'm not necessarily gonna be watching every single game, but I'm more open to seeing how it goes. They got Sergio Busquets coming there and Jordi Alba, who's 2 kind of legends of the game that played with Messi back in the day. But crucially, as we'll compare to Mbappe in a second, they're kind of at the end of their careers, right? Like for years, people have been coming to MLS from David Beckham to Ibrahimovic to Rooney to really big players, but they normally come at the end. It's a fun way to kind of round out your career. You get mad commercial deals, you get paid again. Pretty good lifestyle. Even Messi, I saw him walking around in the supermarket.
By the Publix.
Yeah,
Love
went to
it.
Publix getting his Costco steak. And there were obviously people that did notice him there, but if you walk outside your house in, Paris or London or whatever, you're mobbed, right? Like people are gonna be like, what the hell are you walking around like a
Well, he's
like
done
a
for
civilian?
now. That's his first and last time in the supermarket
Yeah.
after that.
He's
in,
done
in
now.
history. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but the kind of story was, I also think the MLS did an incredible job and Apple did a great job of promoting it this week. So I think it was Friday night was the first Messi game, or Wednesday night they had Arsenal versus MLS All Stars. So if you think of the NBA All Star game, obviously not as high profile, but for the MLS, that was kind of a new thing for me. I've never seen a All Star team play a regular team, and so there were all these challenges that the way in NBA you'll get the dunk challenge and stuff like that. They were trying to do stuff like that, which is kind of funny to watch because you could see this German player we signed being like, what the hell am I doing here? But so that happened on Wednesday, and they gave that as a free thing. So you got a push notification on your iPhone, for me anyway, with Apple TV, because I'm not subscribed, and it said, you can watch this game for free tonight. So tune in. So you get in there.
You're
and
not
then
subscribed, but you don't have Apple TV on the phone either. It just came to the...
Yeah, I've
just
got
came to your
Apple
phone.
TV as an app probably or something like that because I don't know how it works. So I've got an Apple TV device and I've probably had Apple TV Plus in the past. So anyway, I got push notification saying free trial for a free match tonight. I watched that, and then they kind of pitch you all day on that match, saying Messi's coming on Friday. Make sure you subscribe. We're gonna have the first game, every single game. Get the league pass.
1 billion plus phones, people.
Exactly. So that I don't know how many people saw that, but that was a pretty good little upsell.
And Arsenal won 5-0. You don't
Arsenal
forget
did
to say that.
5-0. Yeah, we did. Yeah. I mean, it was a fun little game. Lost on the weekend. I actually went to that one in person in New Jersey, which was kind of fun. But anyway, back to Messi. Friday night, I was out at a bar nearby with a few friends, and I just see all these phones going up. People start watching these clips, and Lionel Messi 1-1, 93rd minute, last minute of the game, free kick, which I don't know if you remember this, Jack, but do you remember Greece in the Euro qualifier for David Beckham, last minute of the game, who's now the owner of Inter Miami, watching on, and that's what happened. It was a chance to win the game with a free kick, and obviously Messi just curled it in, beautiful goal. Yeah. And so, yeah, that amazing kind of, romantic start to his MLS debut.
Fairy tale.
Yeah, fairy tale.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Premium is going to be so insane on every time that team travels. The cities that they play in, it's like you're not going to be able to get a ticket to. He's going to like Seattle.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually
People
a bad example.
People crazy money to be in the stadium that day.
Yeah,
crazy.
And that's going to extend. Like as soon as he signed, I was like, let me look at when Miami are coming to Nashville.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Are you going? Are you going?
I couldn't find it.
Oh,
they
damn.
didn't have it listed, but I'm sure now it's.
And I will say, this weekend I went to Arsenal Man United in New Jersey, MetLife Stadium. 83,000 people sold out. Pretty much.
Man,
insane. Yeah. So that is the MLS side. I'm really curious to see how that progresses over the next year or two, because you got the World Cup coming here. Messi's here. The bigger players are coming, but to contrast that, what's going on in Saudi Arabia right now brings us on to Mbappe. Mbappe is, arguably the best player in the world. Like currently, he's like 24 years old, I think, in the prime of his career. So not normally at this age, you would not be thinking about going to the MLS or even like Saudi in this case. And there's been a crazy bid, like I think it's 200-300 mil for a transfer fee to PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, which is insane, right? Like the world record is like 100 and something, right? It's crazy a premium. And the contract, the TLDR on that is 776 million, I think is the bid here. So they would be paying him up to $776 million for 1 year. And in the contract, this is all reported. We don't know if this is true. Obviously, not all of that is up front. It's a bunch of commercial deals. Also, bear in mind, that's probably tax-free, right? Because you're in Saudi. I'm pretty sure very little taxes. He'll be pushing close to $1 billion for 1 year's work. Insane levels. To paint a picture here, LeBron James' all-time NBA earnings, if this is correct, is $531 million. So just in 1 year, you'd be making more than LeBron did in his whole career. Again, I don't know if that's accurate. This is the Dunk Central on Twitter. But just to paint a picture, and Trung posted some funny stuff on here, like all the different NBA players that are posting. Like Giannis is like saying, I look like Kylian Mbappe, can I take his place or whatever?
Damian Lillard's like, 776 WTF, like what is going on?
Yeah. So that's kind of the summary. I don't think he's going to do it. If he did, fair enough. Like it completely makes sense. But if they actually landed him, it would be an insane change, because it's normally, again, players that ended their careers. This would be, okay, someone, the best player in the world is going to go and play there. So that would be wild.
So Bilal, you're Mr. Sports Ball 1 hour a day on football Twitter or football X.
1 hour's a bit low, but yeah.
X-football.
Yeah, X-football. Your vibe is no, he's not going to do it. This is the general vibe.
I could understand if he did it for 1 year. I think that's the key point. If they didn't include that, I would say 100% no. With the 1 year, it would be one of those funny things like, a random fact like, oh, Michael Jordan played for the Wizards, or Michael Jordan played in the MLB or whatever it is. It'd be like kind of a funny thing. But to me, it's like scarce resource here is his time. Like he's only got 10, 15 years. And
I would argue of his prime years, like 5 maybe, right?
He could do this when he's 29 even, or 32. Yeah. But the question is, will this be an offer in 10 years? Probably not. Right. So you could argue either way. My hope is he doesn't do it, to be honest, just because I'm not against the Saudi League doing this. I think it's smart. I think they should be doing this. They should be going after all the big players. But for me, I already think he's been kind of a little weak in being in the French league, because the French league is like the 6th biggest league now. And he's not really competing. He's the best player in the world. He should be playing in the Champions League, in the Spanish league or the Premier League, really. They're the 2 big leagues. And that might be my bias. Someone else might say, oh, well, he's still already playing in the Champions League. But he hasn't won the Champions League. He won the World Cup, and he was in the final of the last one. He's shown that he's the best player probably in the world, alongside Messi in his prime. But to me, it's like if you're not doing that in a domestic league, I actually judge you more on the domestic league. Because I think if you do it in the Premier League, you do it in the Spanish league, you're really you can push yourself up into that GOAT status where you're not anywhere near that for me, because Messi and Ronaldo did it for 10, 15 years in the hardest leagues in the world. And now they went to, the lesser leagues. So if he did it, you wouldn't be against it. But the romantic football fan in me is like, oh, just go and play in the best league. You've already got enough money. You're going to make enough money ever. Exactly. Be the Thierry Henry. Take that 14 shirt off Eddie Nketiah, academy graduate, and give it to Kylian
we need
Mbappe.
We need to talk about Bilal job when he gets like his passionate topics, like working at Google and football.
Working at Google is my pet. Wearing suits to interviews.
And Bilal's. This is Bilal's Mount Rushmore of like when he gets really into it. It's Arsenal. It's Bling Bling Emporium.
Bling Bling Emporium.
and people, the city of London. I will never get over asking Bilal what's your favorite city in Europe. He's like, you know what? It's probably London. Bro,
yeah, I have to keep it real. I have to represent, man. You can't be.
You can't pick your own city.
No. That's I'm a New Yorker now, but I'm always a Londoner.
I love that.
You gotta keep it real.
That's
that's
it.
Have any Premiership clubs offered?
Not
or
yet.
Chasing Mbappe?
Not yet, but I think the only one I could see it happening is Man City, which would be ridiculous. If Man City somehow landed him, it would be kind of like stupid. Football would be stupid because you got Haaland and him in one team.
Oh my God. That would be amazing.
The team that just won the treble signs the best player in the world.
That'd be stupid. Ronaldo and Messi on the same team. That'd be the equivalent.
Basically, yeah. And I would say I kind of hope he went to Real Madrid, because Real Madrid still, like, the Spanish league is kind of struggling with money, but Real Madrid seem to be doing okay. They just signed Jude Bellingham, who's for 100 mil English midfielder. And they would actually, up level to next level. Benzema's gone to Saudi, who was the reigning Ballon d'Or winner. So it would be kind of cool. If in the Premier League, realistically, the only team that I could see him going to is Man City. But even then, I feel like he would, if he's leaving Paris Saint-Germain, you want a historic club. Real Madrid is that club. Or Barcelona back in the day, but not anymore because they're poor. So, I mean, Arsenal has more history. You could see him following the footsteps of Thierry Henry.
I see it, man. I see it, Bilal.
Challenging.
That would shift some shirts. That would shift some shirts.
There we go. That would shift some shirts.
Let me just tell you about, there's a story from The Athletic about Messi and his money. And apparently he really likes money, Messi. Bilal,
Fair enough.
I mean, did he or did he not like bankrupt Barcelona? That's kind of an
argument. Yeah, something like I heard about this. I don't know enough about it.
So here's an amazing story from the article. So Messi's manager is his father, and that Messi said, "Hey, listen, I really want this player on the team. I'm not really bothered saying who the player was." And then the Barca manager at the time, a Barca president, who Bilal will know, Josep Maria Bartomeu, is that his name?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Barcelona. So he's just like, listen, Messi really wants this guy on the team. You can have to make him an offer, or like he's gonna be pissed. This is what Messi's dad said.
Offer he can't refuse. Yeah.
So the guy's like, we really don't want this player. So he goes out and makes a really flaccid offer. They know, Messi's dad knows they have about 60 million euros to offer this player. They go and offer 30 million euros, which is half the value this guy has, right? So news gets back to Messi that the guy, his friend, wasn't willing to accept the half offer. So Messi's dad goes to Barcelona. Is like, okay, well, listen, if you're only willing to offer that 30 million, you might as well give the other 30 million to Messi. Like, we know how much money you have, and then they're like, yeah. So they give the other 30 million to Messi.
And they're still paying it back, man.
How
they're
freaking funny is that?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, listen, I know you got 60 mil. I need you to get this guy. They're like, okay, well, we'll give him a 30 mil offer. He didn't really want it. He's like, okay, well, now we know that you have money extra. Just give Messi the 30 mil. What is going on?
Yeah, wow.
Anyway, man.
I think to wrap it up, it's amazing. Messi had that little moment. Mbappe, I think, will go Real Madrid, and then we'll back to the regular life.
How much is he get paid? Nowhere
100? Near that, but he will get paid as much as anyone in Europe, which
what, like 100?
I think he's probably getting paid 70 or something now.
Okay.
60, 70 probably. So he's getting paid a crazy amount already. But so I think I'm cutting off there.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not too
amazing,
sure.
guys. All
All right, boys, that was great. Nice way to wrap it up. Thanks for being everyone. We'll see you next week. Cheers.
Yeah, peace out.